Video shadow play or what? Okay, does that work? Okay, going live. My mic seems to be working. Maybe. I think we're good. Stream should be there, theoretically. Yeah. I should get the correct address, I suppose. Theoretically. That is something I should check. Can you talk again, please? Hang on. Yeah, no, that's not because there's so many things. Okay, that's gonna have to go live. So that's gonna be interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make that open. Let's put that there. Can you talk now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's that. Hopefully I can't hear you on the stream, so that'll be interesting. If anyone jumps in and tells us how bad it is or great, that'll be great. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So that's the testing phase. We'll see how the audio goes. I'll move that away from there, maybe. And maybe see if I can still hear you. Cool. We'll give that a shot.
Still here.
All right. So, a little touch and go at the start, but here we are. We'll see how we go. Today we're going to be looking at the first Mona Collab-O-Nation, name pending, because I'm paranoid about the name, but we'll see how we go. But this one we have Scuube, the winning entry for the recent Interact Challenge. We're going to go over his space, some of the thoughts behind it, and at the end we're going to go through actually creating some of the reactors that he used in his space. And I think even I don't know how to do half the things he did because that space was mind-blowing. If you want to introduce yourself, Scuube, go for it.
Yes, hello, thank you. Oh, I hear myself really loud now. I think I hear myself through your...
How about now?
No? Yeah, perfect. No, again. A little bit more latency.
Good?
Yeah?
Yeah.
No?
I'm trying to get some different audio systems. So give me a sec. But yes,
Yes.
feel free to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm gonna try. Yeah, basically I have a background in architecture. I graduated in TU Delft, where I studied... Sorry, too personal. Wait, can we maybe fix this first?
Yeah, we're gonna we got three loops of audio trying to make sure that thing doesn't go through thing, doesn't go through thing, because I'm using Discord as the audio.
Yeah,
So hadn't thought about that one. but we'll see how we go. It should be fine now, but there's going to be a lot of lag between when you talk and I hear it because I'm listening to it on my phone. So it's complicated.
Okay. I still hear myself, but maybe I should turn off Discord temporarily.
Hang on. Let me think.
I didn't hear myself for a second. Oh, no, I do.
Got it. Hang on. Get rid of that. Okay.
Best.
Right. Try talking
I
now.
think I don't hear it. Yes. No, it's impossible to talk when you hear yourself. Thanks. No, yeah, I graduated in the Netherlands at TU Delft, where I did a design studio focusing on parametric architecture and also some interactive architecture. Now I'm working at a company that focuses a lot on infrastructural projects, stadiums, stations,
I have
also
this
making
infinite
use of a
listening
lot of.
fix. This.
Sorry?
Okay. Try talking again.
Yeah,
Why can't
it's good.
I hear you now? That makes no sense. Okay. That's not either. Right.
Better?
That goes through that. That should go through that. Okay. How about now?
Yeah, testing.
No.
For me, it's good.
Why can I not hear you? Okay. All right.
Yeah, test.
Try something.
No.
Try something. I'm gonna go some basic audio tricks to see if I can make sure the audio is working at all. Yeah, that works. So the only catch is I can't hear you on my audio, my headphones for some reason. Um, so I'll put the technical difficulties sign up for a little bit and see what we can do there. Okay. Can you talk for a second? All right, I can hear you there. Yeah, but the thing is, I don't know if other people can hear you on that one. So let's see if I can change this to this one. Okay. How about that? Try again.
Yeah, test.
Okay. I think I have it. Yes. Right.
Good.
And there's
Yeah,
no loop.
for me, it's also good. Yeah.
There's no loop. Okay.
No feedback.
My apologies to everyone. But I'm going to write all this down for next time. Okay. So in that moment, because I think you did have, did you introduce yourself? Was that done? Because I missed that bit.
I was doing that, but I'm not sure if it got through to YouTube.
So
Anyway.
what we'll do, because we're professionals here and we know what we're doing, we're going to start this again, and then I'm going to cut this, so when everyone gets to it later, it'll be perfect. So,
Yeah.
gonna
We'll have
start
to go
again.
through this pain.
Yeah. So, to introduce the evening's events, we're looking at the first Mona Collab-O-Nation with Scuube, the first prize winner of the recent Interact Challenge, with his space called Gateway Ensemble. Playing it was amazing, very puzzle-based, which I'm terrible at, so I didn't get very far with it without my mind melting a bit, but I heard there's some really cool stuff in it, and we're going to go over some of those today. So, Scuube, if you could introduce yourself again, we'll see how that goes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my name is Nick, also known as Scuube for my creative endeavors. I have a background in architecture. I graduated at TU Delft in the Netherlands, at a studio that focuses a lot on parametric design and also interactive design. Now, since about almost 3 years, I work at a architecture studio that focuses a lot of infrastructure, stadiums, stations, and kind of implements a lot of those parametric approaches. And yeah, basically, that's where I work now. And in my free time, I have focused on augmented reality before, making some, just for myself as a hobby, some kind of app where you can build with blocks or some kind of or illusion-looking experiences where, like, the gap between the physical reality and the virtual reality seems to be kind of blurred and distorted. So that's actually my first contact with Unity. And now since a couple months, I've been following Mona, started making spaces. So far it's been great. It's really aligns with what I was looking for to create stuff for the metaverse or just digital content. Because of I think mainly the integration with Unity is a big plus compared to some editors. I'm looking forward to make many more spaces. Let's get to it.
Okay, fantastic. I think that's one of the big challenges with the metaverse is like, what are the tools that you use to create it, and how does it like get portrayed? So it's kind of interesting how different people are making different systems. And I think a lot of it will come down to Unity or Unreal, but Unreal doesn't do Web 3, Web GL, and all these sort of things. So it's kind of interesting how that space is filling out. But yeah, all right. Let's have a quick look at your space. So let's do that one. Cool. There we go. You're stuck with my avatar. Can you control it? Is that something you can do?
Let's see. Because I can control the cursor, I think, yeah. Can I also use my keys?
Do the keys work?
It is super laggy on my end to play it. So maybe you can play it and I can
Alrighty.
guide you.
All right. So this is the space that we're looking at today. And Scuube, take us through it.
So how it all started actually, back when I read the brief for the competition, I immediately got this idea to make something like Monument Valley. It's a game I really liked back when it was released, and still feels like yesterday. Feels like such a such a great game that I think these kind of concepts are really interesting to make. So that was kind of my main guide going into this. I remember like one of the mechanics of the game was where you kind of push around this. I think it's called like a totem. This kind of things, this yellow thing with the eyes. So the first thing I tried making with Reactor was were these boxes that you can push around. Once I got that working, yeah, later on came this idea about the gravity shifting stuff, but also visually, I would say, yeah, Monument Valley, or also that game called Manifold Garden. I don't know if you know it, but yeah, those two games are really kind of my main inspiration for this.
What was the first game again?
So
Sorry.
Monument Valley and Manifold Garden.
Right. First one I know, second one I do
Yeah.
not. But yeah.
Okay, you should really check it out. It's even more mind blowing than this.
Okay.
It's also a game where gravity switches, but yeah, it's just a full game. It works really well. Yeah.
That blew my mind. As soon as I saw that the first time, I was like, "What the hell?" It was great. So cool. Love it.
Yeah, that was my that was what I was hoping for, certainly.
That's
so,
the first puzzle I got through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. How far did you get actually?
I think the third level, I guess you could say, like three up. And then I was like, okay, I'm having to think here, and this is tricky. So yeah, I'm not the best at puzzle games. Like there are some things where a friend will come in and just blitz through something, and it's like I didn't think of any of that. So I'm usually a sort of first-person shooter, no puzzles sort of guy. But I did like one thing that really stood out was just the really interesting use of like I hadn't actually thought of a reactor to push objects around. Actually, that was a really smart approach to it. And once again, it's one of those things where if you don't think about it, you don't think to do it either. So it's like once I figured that out, I was like, oh, okay, this opens up everything. So that got me further from the first time, because the first time I didn't even really understand it, but the second time I was like, okay, that's a whole thing. So it's really interesting when you get that sort of aha moment.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Actually, I first started sketching out these puzzles on paper, and then it wasn't really exciting because you're just pushing around boxes and more boxes and more boxes. So then I got this idea of that actually from the game Manifold Garden, where literally the gravity changes and you can make things like truly 3D, where, for example, the floor becomes the wall, or the wall becomes the floor. And by having kind of these boxes on both sides, you can, in this case, they form a staircase together. And that was kind of the really simple but main goal to get that working. So can't wait to get started with that later. Let's see how that goes. And then let's see. At the very end of the, or more further on in the process, I kind of ran into the problem that, like in Monument Valley, for example, you always look from the same perspective. So, kind of this world that you made in isometric view kind of always fills your screen. Whereas now in first person, when you walk through it, then the entire surroundings were basically empty. So that's why I need to come up with something for the context. That's when I started thinking about joining these portals that you can see if you look on the right, I think. There's a few of those kind of portals that seem to come from this foggy infinite looking space. Kind of make it make more sense.
I really like how you use the fog. Like it's a really simple space actually, but it looks really like kind of there's a depth to it, if that makes sense. So it feels sort of mysterious, and the color, like the palette and all that sort of stuff, really good choices in regards to setting the tone for the whole space, which is really quite nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That came together much better than I actually expected. For the fog, I used a kind of a trick that I found in a tutorial where instead of using the normal fog, you use a, in this case, I used an inverted sphere with a particle shader. And in that particle shader, you can set some kind of, what was it, a fall off distance or something, which makes it actually look like it creates fog around you.
Okay. Did you
Maybe
try normal fog? Like, was there any reason you didn't use the Unity fog? Out of curiosity.
yeah. Well, basically, what I liked about like fog in the real world is that, for example, near the horizon, it's usually darker, and then when the sun shines through it, you get this like bright effect at the top. Um, so this in Unity, you just have one color, and I found it interesting that with this you can make kind of multiple colors, or even add uh, yeah, an image to it. In this case, it's like just a gradient image. Um, yeah, it just makes it look a bit more interesting and spatial.
All right, stealing that idea. Cool. All right. Next up, let's go over to the portrait.
Yeah,
Yeah. Where were we?
yeah, here I try to
Okay.
make create this moment where you make a choice to either continue on one of those. Oh,
I don't want to go
if you look
too
behind.
far because then people can't like explore themselves. But maybe one more layout.
You don't want to. I see it. Yeah, this is one of those moments where you kind of go back and forth to solve the puzzle because you're uh, inclined to go here, and then, well, when you do that, we will see what happens.
It just feels so cool when everything moves like that. Like it feels very natural. I think that it's like it feels like it's meant to do that, and it really shifts how you think about things, which is kind of the whole point of the puzzle approach to this, which is just really cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, it went a lot of time into kind of tweaking it to make it feel smooth and good to so there's a funny point where you think, let's go here, then you see that you have to go back and kind of figure out your way through.
All right, give me 5 seconds. 10. Give me 13 hours.
Well, you don't have to go this far back. I can tell you that.
All right, tell me where to go because I'm horrible at these. There's a thing that I need to do. And this is the thing because all of these ones have hints, right? Like this is a movable object, yeah. Like that symbol there, and that's a really good thing to do with a lot of spaces in regards to communicating with players what you're trying to do to make sure that they do it is definitely a thing. Okay.
I try to do this with like markings in the floor or these emblems on the sides to kind of give a hint that they can move or that there's something to do.
Yeah.
I
think it's a really interesting
but
technique.
when you're making these puzzles, it's hard to imagine when you don't know the answer, what do people think and what do people do?
Yeah.
I
think one thing I like to think is setting expectations. But with puzzles is how far do you set it? To make sure that it's like, okay, I'm not giving too much information away to make it fun when they get it, but giving them enough to, like the fact that I've been playing with this for a month means I know everything really well. So being able to bounce between what do I actually tell them, it's really quite interesting. Is that it? I can go down again, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. Multi-level puzzles.
Yeah, it was mind-bending to, especially this puzzle, to think about how it would work. because this one platform kind of connects to both sides of those. How do you even explain that?
Yeah,
When it rotates, yeah, it connects
I'm
in a
playing
different
it
way.
and
So
I can't figure out how you
yeah,
figured this out. Like I'm just like, nah, that's nah. Too much. So yeah, really smart. I really like these ideas. Okay. Yeah. Next one, maybe. Maybe. How many layers are there? Should we say that? Is that something we should keep saying?
yeah, I think we can keep going a
It's
bit.
an
Yeah,
infinite game. It will never stop.
just to show kind of what is.
Ah, colors.
Did you go this far? Yeah.
I don't remember red, so no, I may not have made it this far. So I might have explored a little. Did I see this? I'm not too sure, but I like the color choice here as well. Like you look, is this like? Did you look into the contrasting colors? Like what do you call it? Complementary colors and
Yeah. I tried. Yeah, I just tried many things. But yeah, when I had this kind of blue theme, I needed something that stands out. So it automatically kind of ended up in this orangey. What is it? Orangey color.
yeah, that's the technical term, Pantone orangey. Right, let's see. Let's see. We got stairs. I feel like that's something we should do.
There's also one quick tip for people that implement stairs, that in a lot of spaces you see people using the colliders from the stairs, and then when you walk on top of it, you get this bumpy effect. And it's pretty easy to make like one small ramp in Blender and then scale it in Unity, so that when you walk on top of it, it doesn't go like down, if you know what I mean. um, but it's more smooth. That's small tip.
Yeah, one catch I do have with that approach, and it's very pros and cons. Where if you look at if you do a ramp, can I see it? If I go back a bit, um, and depending on where you put the ramp, I think you put it a bit above. So your feet will go into the stairs or off the
Yeah,
stairs.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it is a smoother experience, which I prefer. So it's definitely a balance between, do you get the up and down and have less cut through? I'm sure there's a word for it. Clipping. Or do you do the ramp and sorry, or have the ramp and have a little bit more clipping, but a smoother experience. I like the smooth experience
yeah,
personally. Yeah, definitely case
yeah.
by
I think
case.
especially in first person, and when there will be like when there's a VR implementation, I think then you probably need some more smooth
Yeah,
experiences.
didn't even look at that, but that is a very good point. Okay, I'm gonna go on this one.
Yeah, you're
Ah,
going the right way.
yay! And the thing is also, you start losing track of where you've been, even though you've just been there, when you start turning everything around, which is really cool.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Do that one.
What,
Just UV,
what did
animated
you say?
UV on loop. The bubble effect there.
Oh, that's actually a shader I found that was part of the tutorial, but they just handed in the entire shader, so I used it. um,
Right.
maybe I can link it in the Discord somewhere, but it also kind of flows into the direction of gravity, even.
Right. Oh. Yeah, I did a thing.
Yeah, so now the water is running, sort of, first part.
Yeah. So many layers. I'm gonna do this. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so I tried with basically in Reactor, there's one value that increases every time you solve one of these elements, and then in the end the water starts running when that value is at this case at 3, I think.
Yeah, I find one of the tricks with int is if you're doing a loop, at the end of it, you have to set that back to 1 somehow. So you sort of got like a +1 +1 +1 +1, but then at some point it has to go back to 0. And like looping that in
Yeah.
is an interesting process. It definitely can be done, but it's like, okay, creative use of interesting reactor tools.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to get to the end, then I think we can do it. People, maybe if they skip this part, then if they want to solve it themselves.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so that covers like a lot of things. So far, what would be all of the tools that you've used so far? So we've got moving boxes. We've got
Yeah.
pan-dimensional spaces. We've got like a pipe rotation and UVs, so the water tool there. So you've got like a lot of interesting tools there, just to create like these sort of three main puzzles. I'd consider them, I guess. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Anything else that we will stop there because I definitely want to leave some open for everybody else. Any other points in regards to not giving too much away, but the thought processes involved with this space? And this is the thing, guys, because we've moved it so often, like this space looks nothing like it did at the start.
Yeah. Just being rotated, even though it moves almost as a whole together. Yeah, you experience it way differently. Yeah.
There it is. Figured it out.
There it
Sweet.
is.
Okay.
Well, you're almost at the end now, anyway. So
I'm gonna stop there. I'll keep it a surprise. But yeah, that's the thing I was looking for. Okay, that's cool. One question.
yeah,
Like
what?
say for example this spot here. So with light mapping, I'm assuming you did light mapping with the space, right?
No.
No. What? Really?
No, I didn't know how to do that yet. I didn't know that, for example, you needed to turn on the static at each of the objects that you want to light map.
This is not light mapped. That's nuts.
So yeah, at first everything looked really flat. Like no matter what I did with the sunlight or like the material settings. So when I made these emblem things and they were glowing, I got the idea. Okay, what if I make everything just dark and use a few spotlights, a few point lights to to basically make all of the stairs and all of the small edges stand out a bit.
That's surprising because this looks nice enough to be light mapped. Like this, yeah. Like what? How? What? That's mad.
Yeah, because I used spotlights that are real time, that cast a shadow, and then
okay.
I used point lights that are also real time, but that don't cast a shadow to kind of imitate the kind of bounce light basically.
Yeah, I think shadows.
And then I just hoped that
shadows are the expensive one. I think. So if you have more lights but no shadows, you can actually get away with that to run pretty well.
Yeah.
But I want shadows on everything. I want everything to look great. So I will not do a space without light mapping, basically. But the thing is also because you're using bloom on materials like the glowing circles and like things there, like it feels more lit than otherwise, if that makes sense. So like lighting plays a part, even though we're not actually lighting it with these circles and things like that. So it's actually really interesting approach to the light effect.
If you turn off bloom, then you can see. I think you can do it here.
Yeah,
the settings.
Like that changes the vibe completely.
yeah. So really it heavily relies on the bloom.
Yeah.
I
always sometimes I turn it off, but yeah. Do you remember, just out of curiosity, do you remember what emissive intensity was your white lights at? 3 months ago with this one number in one parameter. Do you happen to remember that off the top of your head?
No, but I have the thing open here.
Okay. Because I think
the
I go around
density is
1 to 2. Seems to be the
it's at
sweet spot.
1.4. Yeah.
That sounds about right. So yeah,
Yeah.
any higher than 2, when you start looking, like if people have their bloom at full, it's gonna be very bright. So yeah, I turn everything else off. I'm just like, nah, keep it simple. But yeah, okay, cool. All right. Anything else on this before? Otherwise, we'll jump into a template and start creating some of these things.
Yeah, I think we can just get started with the tutorial. Yeah, we just invite people to explore the space for
Yeah, I want to do
themselves,
that.
and
All right. Let's host a
yeah.
hangout and make it noisy. Ah, that's an interesting thing. So, if I, and this is, ah, that's excellent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. um, if, and this is the thing with puzzle spaces, and this is what I found with the Fall Guys or the Fallout guys. I'm for copyright reasons. The Fallout guys space that I'm working on is if you have a puzzle space and someone solves the first one, and you can't reset it in any way, that will always be done. So you can only make that space once, if that makes sense. So I'm looking with the Fall Guy guys is how do you reset a space, and toying with that option. So for that, I'm basically, what am I doing? Resetting all of the reactors back to its automatic state when I get to something at the end, and also like having a warp zone just complete the whole space, and then everyone get teleported to the start, and that resets everything. It's a little. I still need to work on clean it up a bit, but it's basically there. But we'll give it a shot. We'll share it. I'll put it in the main chat. Hang on. Hang on. I'm gonna close that off because otherwise that's gonna be weird. And then put it in the general chat. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Also join myself.
Okay, I'm going to close this down because I'm going to be running Unity, but everyone can have at it. All right, so we are going to start a new template and go through some of the amazingness magic that he created. Let's go. Desktop. Alrighty, so what are we gonna work on first? What do we need?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's best to break it down in into 3 parts. Where first we look at all the game objects that we need. Then go through the animations, and then kind of link everything up together with Reactor. And I think for this tutorial, it's best to focus on the gravity changing part. And maybe another time we could do or if we have a lot of time left, we could do the box pushing part. But I think the gravity one is pretty interesting.
I still, because I did, with the Hex Gallery, I just did a huge skybox that moved everything. It's like, this is gravity changing, but this is like, what you're doing is, especially when you started doing multi-layer
It's not too different, but
I don't believe you. Prove it to me. So yeah, all right, let's get rid of the portal just so we don't have to worry about that one. And then we have the space with the assets. All right, what do we need?
Yeah, well, we already have a floor, which it says to delete this, but I think we can also use it if you want. I think it's at first we can see what kind of space we want to make. Do we want to make like a small floor with where you rotate to a wall or a ceiling, or I think for this purpose, we can just make a simple plane and a simple wall.
Yeah. Ah, because it's a child of that one. Gotcha. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we want some walls. Why is that rotating? All right.
Yeah, I think it's nice if we have like a basic floor and then yeah, one more wall and maybe something that is either a ceiling or at least it's connected to this other wall. I think you can, yeah, make a ceiling out of it or something.
Most professional ceiling you'll ever see in your entire life. This is it. Do you ever use this one? Like, a lot of people use scale, but I actually like using this one quite a bit, where you can just sort of like do cool things like that. How's that?
I found out about it very late, and it would have been very useful. So, yeah, I now use it. Yeah.
Mm. All right, cool. So we have a floor and ceiling and a wall.
Yes, let me see. It's lagging a bit, but yeah, one thing that you can play with, for example, in my case, I took about 5 meters, which is kind of the how do you say that, distance from one of these small platforms to the wall, and then the platforms that you stand on when stuff starts rotating. I mean,
Right.
but yeah, you can make this distance really small or really big to make the space feel more like it's not just rotating, but it's kind of, you know, makes a bigger movement basically.
Yep.
But I think for now it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'll do this as well. So we've got the full options to do whatever we want with it. Okay, so we've got two things that looks like one floor and two things. That should work for what we're trying to do. Should. Lots of shoulds.
Yeah, next I would check where where do you want these rotations to take place.
So I think
what I did is
let's put these in two separate assets. I do this a lot where I put objects inside things just to keep things clean. So let's say room 1, and we'll put room 1 in that, and then we can rotate that as well. The other reason to do that is animation, especially if you're using with reactor and stuff, will have access to everything equal the asset and its children. So if we want to rotate the whole thing, you can put that in an asset. So room 2, for example. And then we can control that very easily rather than all 4 objects and stuff like that. So that should work.
Yeah.
So let's say
it's also
go for it.
Yeah, that's also something that we will get to later with like these parents and child hierarchies, I guess. Where there was a first approach that I did that clearly didn't work, and then had to come up with something else. But for now, I think the next step is to, I used basically cylinders to create a small, like a button-looking thing that indicates that, this is a space where you can stand on to, basically start moving.
That put a box collider. Easy to work with, and then scale that down. Cool. Button made.
Yes. I think you got turned on that it looks to the grid. I think that makes it easy. Or that it is like a whole number.
All right, yeah.
Integer.
So, is that what you mean?
Yes, perfect. Yeah, now you can basically check, because it's pretty close to the wall now, I think. So now if it would start rotating, you make like a small E to the side.
So that
And I
rotates.
think, yeah, that's the thing that you stand, well, that indicates the where you can stand, basically. At least that's how.
So that is separate, and
how
that
I
is a
made
separate thing. Okay, so I would probably
it. You can keep this, but you can keep this button in that room. That's fine, actually, because this is just the indicator for it. It also just for building it just helps you also to know where to place pivot points, which we will get into later. But also for the player, it indicates, yeah, what's happening. So in this case, I would maybe move it away a bit from the wall. Yeah, I think there's fine. Yeah. Yeah, you can make it, yeah, just above or into the floor. It's also fine.
Yep.
And yeah, then we need one more to indicate the location where it's gonna go.
Okay.
So what you basically want to do is that it's at the same distance from the floor than it was from the wall, even though the wall becomes the floor. But
yeah, this is where it starts getting messy. So I think what's that one? That's 2. No, hang on. Yeah, so this is
I
is
always
how I would
counted
do
it by
this to
just
be much
dragging
easier.
counting.
I'm gonna get rid of that one. I'm gonna put that where I want it. So let's say, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can move the entire thing.
Well, perfect. So yeah,
And
a thing of
if
Unity
that
is
point is
everything.
a nice number,
Yeah, everything is parent.
then it's good.
So you can do all sorts of interesting things. But yeah, there's many different ways to do the same thing. So that's either it's a numbers game or it's a parent game. But the thing is also, I think if I move these both down now, dunk, and delete those, they stay where they are, but they lose the parent.
Yeah.
So that's super clean if you want to do
Yeah.
that as well. So there's lots of options for how to do that.
Yeah, yeah. But the parent thing is how do you say that? That will be done later. Because there's kind of a tricky point there, which we will get into. For now, we just make the space kind of, yeah, just the floors, the walls, the stairs, everything that moves, basically. And later we can define the rotation point. Yeah. So now we basically made one of those locations. And maybe we can already make, yeah, one more on the ceiling, for example.
What's this for?
Sorry?
Another what on the ceiling? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm thinking about making 2 of these locations where it moves, basically. Because that's kind of where an interesting problem gets solved with React.
How's that?
Yeah, maybe that's fine. You walk to one and then
I'll go up there, walk across, maybe. Yeah, anyway, we'll give that a shot.
yeah, then the 2 rooms move just together, I think. Then it will, should work, I guess.
See? Yeah, this isn't an engineering problem. This is a gravity problem. It's like, hey, hang on a second. If I, yeah, okay. And it's very much a testing thing. Like with any puzzle like this, and it happens a lot, was like, okay, you'll try it, and then you'll have something wrong every single time, and then you have to revisit what your concept is, and then adjust and remodel and tweak and all that sort of stuff. So it's definitely it's never I'll get it the first time because I'm great at my planning. It's like, no, even with planning, you're gonna mess stuff up.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, it was really tricky, and I think yeah, the next step in the process was to basically define these points that where the entire space rotates around, because it is the player that is standing still on top of a small platform, and then everything else moves around it basically. So, for example, when the player stands on one of those red uh, platforms, uh, and actually these platforms are not the platforms that you stand on; these are just the indicators, these red ones. But when it stands on one of those platforms, yeah, that one stays still, and then pivot point, the rotation point is just above the player's head in this case, and then it starts rotating.
So
The interesting, yeah, the approach that I had first was that you can imagine that the space is like a sequence where this rotation point changes every time. So my first approach was to make each pivot point a child of the previous one, and then put all of the geometry all the way at the bottom in the hierarchy. But what you get then is like, yeah, object inside of an object inside of an object.
yeah,
And for three layers deep, that's fine. But 6 layers deep, everything went wrong basically.
yeah,
Because that's just the way Unity calculates stuff, and all of the colliders started acting crazy and just falling through floors, and yeah.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, really fun. Yeah, so I had to come up with another approach. So yeah, let's get started with that one. So basically, in this case, I would just put an empty in the assets folder. Yeah, let's keep it there. Oh, one thing. I don't know if you noticed this too when building, is that when you walk through the origin, for me it triggers all of the reactors.
Does it?
I don't know if this happened. Yeah, at least on my Unity, when I walk through the origin, it kind of triggers all of the colliders.
Interesting.
Or reactors, I mean. So maybe we can just move the space away from that. I'm not sure if this was just one occasion where that happens, but
yeah. There we go.
Yes.
Let's get that up in the and yeah, holding control to snap so I can get things sort of clean. It's a good way to do it as well. Yeah, wanting the spawn point to always be blue. And then F to get back to where we were. Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah, so let's see, you got the empty now.
Yep.
Or not yet. Oh, that is the thing. Yeah. One thing. Yes. Yeah, let's call this one pivot point, or just pivot, I think. So yeah, this object is basically what the space rotates around each time, and this location will change from, let's say, because every time you're rotating around a different point. And I think we can put, let's see, let's make another empty inside of this pivot point. And we can call this, what did I call it? It's like a counter move. So basically what happens each time you get to another, we should have a word for this. Let's call it switcher. It's one of these areas where you start moving.
Gotcha.
Um, the entire space moves to the new pivot point, and then
Okay,
this
so you're
counter
using
moves
reactor
back.
to change the pivot, and then the pivot is based on an. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so in 1 split second, the space moves basically back and forth, but then the pivot point is in the right location. Yeah, so let's keep it like this. That's good. And then in this case, the two rooms, I think they will move together with this setup of the. You can just move them into the counter.
Counter. Okay.
Yeah. So counter in this case doesn't stand for counting, but yeah. Okay. Counter movement.
Cool.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so that's that. And yeah, right now you can see that this pivot is not in the right location for the first one to work, but that is fine because that's something we can animate later. Yeah, the last element is let's say the platform itself that you stand on, which stays outside of the pivot. So you can make it empty. That's good. Call it what did I call it? Yeah, I called it SW and then with a number behind it, but
You're one of those people. Okay.
yeah.
That'll do. Makes perfect sense. There's no issues there at all. But yeah, that'll do.
Is that bad? You mean or like?
Nah. Well, for me, if I used like things like that, no one else will ever understand it if they saw it, right?
True, like that.
So
Yeah.
if you're ever sharing, like if you're sharing spaces with other people, be good with your names. So let's call that just a stand point, maybe, and we'll name it as need to. But yeah, if you work with other people, or there's any chance of you doing that, just imagine you are that person getting handed it, and then see how you would react to your own names, and then yeah. I think one of my favorite.
I'm not even talking about all of the animation names that I gave.
Yeah,
that's even more abstract.
Yeah, so I think one of the things with programming, and that applies well to this, is like, say for example, like for commenting and like being better at coding, so you understand it yourself later. But if you're working with other people, just imagine that future you is a living, breathing psychopath who will hunt you down if they can't understand what you've done. It's like, okay, comments.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I learned how to do comments really well after that. Because future Psycho Me is a scary person to hang out with, I'll say that much.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Yes. Inside of this standpoint, we can make a how do you call it? Just a small platform that you will be actually standing on. Yeah.
Okay.
In this case, I think we can make just one for now, and the other one we can place later. Yeah.
Okay. So put it there for now. Is this
invisible
in the space?
Sorry?
Is this invisible in the space?
This platform is basically the thing that is animated that grows in kind of appears in front of you once you reach one of these switcher areas.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. In this case, I think you can take that standpoint, so not the cube, but the parent, the standpoint, and move it. Move it above. I would say that first one. Yeah. In this case, I had to tweak a lot, like how you walk on it smoothly, but I think for now it's doesn't really matter much.
It'll be fine. Cool.
Okay. Yeah, in terms of just the basic game objects, that's really it. now, of course, we will need to add some colliders later, and but I think we do that once we start playing around with the reactor. Yeah, so now we can start animating stuff, I think. And let me see. Yeah, the first, funny thing was that when I tried, for example, disabling reactor or its collider or whatever, for reasons, uh, it didn't always turn off. I don't know why. It seems that maybe the reactor copies its collider maybe at runtime and then it's still there, or I'm not sure. So one thing I often did was to just animate its location, is move it somewhere up in the air to just make sure that you don't run into it somewhere in the level. If you have another suggestion to turn it off, then go ahead. But in this case, what I did was just animate.
Yeah, I think that has been. I think with volumes and PPVs as well, the best way to do something like that is, and it depends on the space and what it's doing and all the rest of it. But yeah, I do find that the most surefire way to do things with where or what the collider is doing is animate the collider, and you can't. And I found the best way to do it is not to modify the transform, but you actually modify the box collider itself. So you would actually sort of put this on and then animate these parts rather than the transform, depending on what it's working on. So yeah, there's definitely ways around that, and that's the best way to do it at the moment, to my knowledge. So that's worked for me so far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Only in this case, this standpoint object has the platform, and then I also I put a separate object that only has a box collider with the reactor and a separate platform. But I'm thinking, if you're animating this box collider anyway, you can just separate it. No, you cannot do that because you need a platform to stand on. Yeah.
Yeah, colliders for reactors and PPVs and warp flight are their own collider. They can't be two things in once. Because if it's a collider, you can't walk into it to make it do anything. So yeah, they are 100% separate things.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this case, I animated the parent, the standpoint object.
Right,
so I think, we can just add an animator. And then
okay, what's this one doing? Real names, please.
Well, it's basically, it enables or disables this platform, this specific platform.
What's the idle state of this?
Idle will be disabled.
Okay. So one thing I do, once again, just organization more than anything else, you can change it afterwards, is the first animation you make on any asset is the idle state when you start the space. So, yeah.
I made that mistake a lot,
Yeah, so when it's there, it's the first one that gets created in the animator. Now, you can change that afterwards, but yeah. Okay, so standpoint disabled. So you said the best way to do this is to...
I just moved the entire thing, what is it, 200 meters into the air, or 200 units.
So let's turn on record and just go down. There we go, problem solved.
In this case, that's fine. Yeah.
That's fine. So yeah, get it somewhere else. And then I guess we need another clip, which is enabled, right?
Yeah.
So standpoint enabled. And then we can just go snap. And then once again, that's already added to the animator, which is great. What type of parameter? I'm assuming a Boolean?
I was thinking about checking that later, but I can. Yeah, I can check it now.
Yeah, like how people do reactors is definitely individual. I kind of do everything on one asset at one time to keep track of all of the states of that object. So I'll create all the animations, I'll create all the parameters, and then I know that the animator for that object is done. So when I get to the reactor part, I know I can hook into that already. So I don't forget things because it's very easy to
Yeah,
forget
yeah,
things.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. Let me see. In this case, I added, I think it was 2 triggers actually,
Okay. Yeah, triggers. Cool.
and then yeah, one of them you can give some enabled. That's fine. Yeah, and then
Oh,
another
did
one.
you think of using invert on a boolean? That would be another way to do it,
Maybe
and it
I've
sounds
tried
cooler.
many things,
Okay,
and it eventually came
let's
to
do
this. But
yours. Let's stick with that one because you know that works. All right.
yeah,
And then make transition. Right mouse click, make transition. So.
yeah, and actually, what I did,
Yeah.
funnily enough, was that from the any state I made 2 transitions to that.
Okay. I never do that actually.
And I forgot the reason, but it just worked. So
Okay. I never used this one. Okay, so that one's enabled. Yep, cool. And this one is disabled. All right. Also works.
yeah, and then for these settings, you have some of these. What is it? The durations and stuff. I put them to 0. All of them. Don't know if it
Perfect.
matters a lot, but yeah.
No, it'll snap where you want it to be, so that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I never use any state. I probably should, but for some reason I just don't. But yeah, that's a good point.
Quickly checking. I think I know what this does. Yeah, I'm checking my own Unity to make sure that we're doing it right. uh, check. Yeah, let's just keep going. I think that's fine. Yeah, so that is just one animation.
Yep.
And then what I did, because it just looked more how do you say it, fun, I guess, is that this small platform scales from 0 to what is it? To its actual size that it is now. So I animated. I think I just put this in the standpoint, and then when you add an animation on there, you can go into one of its child, which is then the cube.
Okay. So is this
So yeah, we want.
is this a different animation on the same one?
Yeah, it's a different animation, but it's part of the same state inside of the animator.
So we have standpoint disabled, standpoint enabled, and this new one that we're about to make, yes?
Yeah, yeah.
What should we call it?
Maybe
Drink.
platform. Yeah, or standpoint tree. Yeah, yeah.
Ready. Small, right?
Yeah, or 0 or very small.
Yeah. We could go down.
Yeah, this is really just how do you say that, visual thing that kind of appears in front of you.
Okay. Is this an animation or a one frame that we use the animator to transition between the two?
Good question. I think I made it as a animation, So that's kind of it. You get this kind of sine wave. No, it's not a sine wave, like the smooth transition, but you can also just make it linear by using the. Let me think.
Case.
No, actually, yeah, you want a small transition, yeah, because we set the. What is it? The duration we set to 0, so we want to add some transition, yeah.
So?
Yes.
Cool.
I think so. It also seems to go up and down a bit, but
yeah, no, because yeah. Do that and just assume that they are aligned.
yeah.
So I could do this. Hang on. Copy component. Copy position. Yeah, copy position. Let's see how this works. Record and see what happens here. Paste position. That works. That'd be cool. That works. Yes. You can copy positions from other things and put it into other animations. Awesome.
Yeah.
Never needed it, but that's great. All right. All right. So we got that. Is that an any or what's with that one?
Let me see. Hmm. The funny thing is, in my view, yeah, they are the same, or maybe they are the same animation. It's just, let me see on your screen.
If you enabled it, you also made it appear like zoop.
Yeah.
Ah.
I think it is the same animation. True. It's just because I animated the child, I don't see it when I have the standpoint selected.
Okay.
But
So
in
this
your
is
case, I
two
did.
animations, enabled and disabled. And when you enabled it,
Yeah,
you
and that's
also
it.
transition the size. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now that's actually good because
My
we
bad.
could use this point. Because if you delete this animation, that'll be gone. But the animation still exists as a file. It'll be very small, like 2.9K. But if you want to keep everything super clean, this would be a good time to delete that as well. So just a heads up on that. Okay. So enabled. So let's
Yeah, and here I added a yeah. It also works, I guess.
and
But then I
scale.
scaled the cube itself and not the endpoint.
Okay. All right. How about so cube scales does all the things, right?
Cube.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Dunk, dunk. And we want to scale it as well. Dunk, dunk. Let's say I don't know, 10 half that. So that's enabled. So this goes from small to big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that needs to be the end point. Start point needs to be different.
Then in my case, the position is instant, and the scale is gradual. So I don't know if you can do that in here. If you know
Do
what.
everything if I have enough time. So, one more time. So, standpoint position is instant, and the cube is over time. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And make sure, and this is a big thing, because if you have, especially prefabs or anything like that, when you click on an asset and you want the child, it will always choose the parent or the prefab. So make sure when you're animating the correct asset. It is 100% a thing that is really annoying. Okay, there we go.
Yes.
And you can check by selecting the asset that you want to see, so the axis is seen when you're animating. So the standpoint there is at the same spot, but the cube is the one that moves, just as expected. So that's perfect. Would we need to do an invert of that on disabled?
Yeah, I'm just checking.
Assuming so. Although that said, it'll transition to that actually. So if it's up, it'll just automatically translate to that. So that should be fine.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah. The thing is also actually, we could do this as a 1-frame animation if we wanted to. So if you had disabled as small and down below, and then you had enabled as up, it will scale and position it between those two in Animator, which is a super useful and much easier way to do those sort of things if they're simple animations. So
yeah,
approaches to that. Okay, cool.
The only thing that in this case happens is that the platform it immediately moves to the right location.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my case it was like 200 meters in the air, so it immediately moves to the right location and then it scales up. That's kind of what you see happen.
Right. So the position needs to be instant, but the animation needs to be slow. So yes, in that case, you're right. This needs to be a case by case. Cool. Next.
Yeah, and then the inverse basically. I don't know if you. Yeah.
Okay.
So the position is.
Let's do some quick ones on that. So once again, the cube, record, down. Actually, let's go here and grab all of these. So I'm gonna copy. Nope. If you select the top one, that will select all of them. If you select some of these, it'll be below that. So just a good way to control. And once again, make sure you select the right things. So if I select this, that'll be 1, that'll be 2. But if I select that, when it's selected, it won't. But if I do that, like unselect and then select the top one, it'll be all of them. So yeah, you do have to be really careful on what is selected pretty much at every step. It's a bit of a pain, to be honest. Go. So this is disabled, so that stays there. And if we go Control V, that'll be fine. Oops. Make sure the record is button on. Ding, ding. Scale. Sometimes if you type the same number in Animator as well, it won't animate. So I had to change it to 2 and then back to 1 to make sure that keyframe goes in. So there are some quirks, I guess, with a lot of these things. 0, 0, 0. Okay. So the cube moves correctly.
I'm still doubting if that works. The position is good now, but
a shot.
The cube position is also animated, but I'm not sure if that.
All right, we'll give it a shot. Testing is half the fun.
Yes.
All right. Maybe done. Animator's there. Okay. What's that?
So now we get the tricky part.
All right.
Which is basically animating the pivot point, which I called it.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, how should we do that? Yeah, you can make maybe the initialized version, which is just where it is now.
Mm-hmm. So where is this animation? Is this on the pivot asset?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Once again, go to animation, create, and it sets up the animator for you. What is the default position? Stage 1? Phase 1?
Or just call it maybe for now just initialized or 0 or something.
Nope. Cool. And what are we animating in this one? What's the idle state?
For this, let me check. Yeah, just the position for now.
Okay. Position of
Of the pivot.
everything?
Yeah.
Children or just pivot itself?
The pivot itself, but it kind of takes everything with it, I guess.
Yep.
Or not.
So as an example for all those watching, we have if I rotate pivot, it does that.
Yeah,
but if I do one of its children, it will do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, empty game objects are super useful for control of all of the children, and you can do some really cool stuff as we're doing that with reactor and animation and just control of spaces. So yeah, use empty game objects to your advantage when making spaces for sure.
Yes.
That's done.
So yeah, of course the pivot point is the one that's going to rotate. However, I don't put them in the same animation, but I split them up between let's say the location and the rotation. I split up between two.
So new animation, what would be so target phase 2?
Yeah, maybe we can keep going with the location first. Yeah. Let's see.
Do 1.
Yeah, that's 1. I also use numbers. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, now comes the fun bit. I'm not sure if we should change this one already or already make a animation for the counter movement, if you know what I mean.
I think what I would do, and this is my approach to reactors, is the order of animation doesn't matter as long as they're all done.
Yeah.
So whichever one makes more sense to do next, I guess. So yeah, I will. Well, depends on the day. So sometimes I will, like, say the first one we did, the little asset. I would create the animations. I would do the animator and the parameters, and then I would do the reactor for that. So that's all done. And then I would move on to the next asset and then go through that 3 process of animation, animator, reactor, animation, animator, reactor. But once you're getting into more complicated spaces, then it gets a little more interesting in the fact that you'll start jumping around all over the place and it gets tricky. I'll say that much. So yeah, there's no strict way to do reactors and animations and animator as long as you do them all. Generally speaking, once again, this is not so much to you. As I said, I've got my system, you've got yours. Everyone's going to have their own. Some people will start at reactor and go backwards, which is fine, but you have to really know what you're doing before you do it. So yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but one thing that I used a lot actually when making this was to kind of debug geometry. So
Yep.
I used like cubes in places just to know where these pivot points are and
Yeah.
etc.
I do that a lot actually with the collider of a reactor as well. So I'll put a mesh on it, even as a parent or a child that you can run into, and even I'll put like transparency on it so I know that I can run through it. And it's like, okay, I know where the collider is here. So that's super useful for these sort of debugging approaches to, is the collider where I expect it to be? Is the animation doing what I expect it to be? And yeah, I definitely use those tools. For sure.
Yeah, because when you're playing, you're testing the space, if you don't do that, you're just basically blind and just hope that it does what you do, but it usually doesn't. So this way you can kind of at least see why it's not working or which collider is moving or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in this case it would also help to put maybe first inside of the room. I put a cube where we want the pivot point to be.
Yep.
For now, maybe just the first one.
In room 1.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, as long as it's within the counter thing.
Okay, check. So let's put that to a bit smaller on the asset. So let's do debug cube. Make that a bit smaller, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And I think the pivot is there, right? Now, one thing I do highly recommend when doing these sort of things is make sure that when you're clicking on objects and you want to find the pivot of it, that this asset here, center and local, just to be sure, is correct. So a lot of the time it will be in the center. But if I do the pivot, it might be somewhere else. So yeah, there's definitely, make sure that if you're looking for pivots of objects, make sure that the pivot and local is on to make sure that's where it is actually going to be. So when I click on the debug cube, it is in the same place. So that's what we want.
Only have a small problem. I see your mouse moving, but the screen stopped updating. So I see that you're clicking stuff, but Unity stays the same for me. So I maybe need to reconnect the, what was it? The team viewer.
Hang on. Let's shut that down and see how that goes. Close connection. All right, hang on. So it's the same thing. I'm going to change the password for reasons. Give that a shot. Everyone had 0.5 seconds to get the password, so everyone can now control my screen. That's fine. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, now I can see the debug cube. Yeah. Yeah, so this one, I think you just want to place it once you're ready, right above the small platform.
Okay. Now,
basically at the intersection of the two red.
These two?
Yeah, so there and then into the air. So it's at the same height as the one on the wall. Yeah.
There.
Yeah, but then higher up. So that is basically at the same height as the middle of the red circle on the wall.
Right. Gotcha.
Good exercise to explain stuff with words.
Yeah. I should have kept those two the original rotators that I had before I deleted them, but oh well. that'll be good enough.
Yeah, it's fine. You can always tweak those two platforms. Yeah. As long as it's yeah, it's fine. Okay.
Now what is that representing? Like the pivot, which is down here?
Yeah, that's just for now representing the points where we want to rotate around. So you can give it that name, maybe pivot 1 or pivot debug 1. Yep. Yeah, this will basically help us move the actual pivot points to there. And what I did was I have this one, and then I have a copy outside of the pivot point.
Right. So
because when you move the pivot point, it moves basically with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I do love that Unity does that by default, where if you take an object out of a parent object, it keeps the location where it is. That's super useful between the two choices they could have made with that. So the fact that these two are outside of the same parent but keep the same space is great. super useful.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's good. What we can animate already is then the pivot, where we just started, the location.
What was that? Sorry.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, so the initialized position we have.
Mm-hmm.
And then we make a new one, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, this one. And here we basically drag the transform to the debug cube, the center of the debug cube.
So everything moves? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then with round numbers, I guess.
Don't know if I did round numbers for this. Close enough is good enough for today's
Yeah,
purposes.
it will be important.
Oh, will it? Okay.
Well, or not. Let's see. But yeah.
It'll be expect jankiness, but the logic is sound.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, and now, yeah, I think we can just keep this. And now we want to animate the counter object, which is basically going to move the other way so that the space, if you add both movements up, that kind of stays the same.
In the same animation?
I didn't. Maybe you can.
Because I've found, and tell me how you go, because you probably came across this. If you have an animator in a child of a parent animator, and I think the key thing here is if you modify the same aspect or element, right? So say for example I had the pivot having an animator, and I move the pivot. And then I had counter have an animator, and I move the pivot in that one. That has issues, because one's overriding the other one sometimes, and it doesn't. I think it has issues with that. But if you're only animating things that are separate, it might be okay. I think it is. So that's an interesting one that I've found.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have put animator, for example, in well, not in this case, but for example in pivot, and then animated stuff that was a child of it, but then just different parameters.
Right.
Yeah, and that
okay.
worked.
So this would be in the this would be in the pivot animator under a different animation clip. Yeah.
It could be. It's not what I did, so I cannot promise
What
that
did
it
you
works.
do? Did you put a new animator on counter?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now note, if you select counter, I can't do that here, which is my normal approach with create animator, because the parent has one. So I will actually have to create an animator on the asset and do that like manually kind of thing.
Yeah.
So controller, and we don't want to use these ones. We actually want a new one. So once again, go to animation, create animator controller. Let's call this counter. Go back to counter, and then we can drag this on there. And then, oh no, that's right. Hang on. I'm going to undo all of that because you can do it properly. And I just remembered how. So, remove that. If I add an animator, then this comes up.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. So you don't have to do that manual thing. Just imagine I didn't say that. And then if this has an animator, you can then use this to create the animation, which is just the easiest way to do it. So yeah, forgot about that. Counter init. Cool. What's this one doing?
Yeah, this one's also doing the position, but in this case, just the position and not a rotation. So
of the counter?
It's a bit easier. Yeah, of the counter. Yeah.
Of the counter. Man, I thought you said this was easy.
Well, yeah.
Once again, expect jankiness, but that's what we got. Cool.
Oh, wait. You're already animating it.
Yeah? Should I not?
Yeah, what we need to do actually is um, um, enable what
Ah,
we just did for the position.
right.
So
So
just
initial,
move
you
it.
need an initial and then 2. Gotcha.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
also.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But now, one moment, because in this case we want to do the opposite. Um, so let's see. Let's add a debug to the pivot. Just maybe to the pivot add a mesh. What is it? Um, or create an empty. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just so we know visually kind of where it is.
The counter one, right? Okay. I'm going to put a red thing on that. Dunk. All right, where's that one going?
Yeah, this is the. It's just for help. So we keep that there, where the pivot is right now, and then yeah, we go back to the counter to the counter number 1. Yes, and then we move this back so that the cube that's floating into the air now moves back to the red cube. If you
One more
so,
time, please.
yes. Yeah, so start moving this for us now. Yeah, to the bottom
That.
left. Yeah, yeah,
Ooh, okay.
yeah.
That's why we have the debug. Now with that one, we could sort of align these up a bit with the. That's a thing. Try something like this. So, then we can do it a bit better. Do, do, do.
Yeah, later you can probably,
Tweak as
if
needed.
this works, yeah, tweak it a bit. Yeah. Okay, great. Let me check. Okay. Yeah, now the last one of the
I
last
will
things.
100% say I am very lost as to what this is going to do, so I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I understand.
If everybody else is lost,
Yeah,
it's not you. It's me as well. So don't worry about that. We'll get there in the end, I'm sure.
yeah. What we just did was it's basically so that you can make multiple of these. If you just want one of these points, you don't need to do all these steps with the pivot points. You just have one rotation point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you want to have multiple, you need to update the location every time.
Yeah. I think
Um,
this is actually a really good point in regards to using like debug cubes and elements in Unity that you know you're going to get rid of. But it does really help in troubleshooting a lot of these, and it's a very normal and if not recommended thing to do to use all of the things to make things easier for you. I don't think I did this enough when I was starting Unity, and it's like I should know it should be easy to understand. It's like no, make it easy, save time, like use every single
yeah,
hack you possibly can to make your life easier, and you will be better for it. So yeah, these are really interesting techniques to sort of help with some of the problem solving with these. So great.
yeah, yeah. At one point, my space was full of colored cubes of all kinds. But yeah, without it, it would, I think, not even be possible. Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, the last thing we need to do is rotate the pivot object.
On
So add an
the pivot animator.
yeah. What I did was that I made a separate layer inside of the animator.
Oh, I
Uh,
haven't done this. Please teach me how to do this.
Yeah, maybe it's not even necessary. Maybe you can.
No, I want to do it. Let's do it.
I
That
think
sounds great.
I think you need to. So yeah, let's make a new layer.
Okay.
So one of them I called this location, and the other one I called rotation.
Okay. Yeah. Rotation.
For the new
So
one,
base
yeah,
layer is called location, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you click on the bottom one on the settings, because by default it turns the weight or something to 0. Yeah. So you turn this one up.
To 1?
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Can you, because I know exactly what layers do, can you explain what layers do in Animator?
Well, to my understanding, in this case, you can, if you have one object that you want to animate, and how do you say that? Have multiple parameters that are not doing the same thing at the same time, then you can basically do them simultaneously in one animator. For example,
So
if
you'd say
you
it's
have
like
only one
Photoshop
layer,
layers where like you have 5 layers doing their own thing and they interact in different ways. And that what was it? The weight can be adjusted to how much they overlay each other. So 1 and 1 means both layers can happen at the same time equally.
I guess. I didn't change, I just put it to 1 because I want both to happen.
Yeah.
I never tried putting it to something in between, actually.
Yeah. I think what it is, my guess, and once again, I haven't used this before, but would be if you set it to put 5, then it would do half whatever animation you do in it. So
I guess, yeah.
that would be my interpretation of it, but with testing, I'd have to figure it out. And then you got different blending types. So you can override it, you can add it. So if I did like 90 degrees on one layer and then the same 90 degrees on a separate layer, you would, if they're added, I guess it would go to 180. But if it's override, it would stick to 90. Like, yeah. So it's quite an interesting tool. And I'm happy that you reminded me that it exists.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so for this let's see. Yeah,
Okay, so we have to put the rotations, which we haven't done yet. We haven't animated them yet. Okay.
Yeah.
So create new clip. Yeah. And this is on the pivot. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can call it pivot rotation 1. Because it's the first. Wait, let's do this right.
I'm assuming 0 and 1.
Yeah, for now this is yeah.
The pivot.
Maybe.
Yeah. And let's rotate that. Bonk, bonk. And then another one. Pivot rotation 1. And I assume this would be a 90 degrees?
In this case, yeah.
So let's say we want that, right?
Yeah.
But we want that to be there. Oh, no, that's the rotation.
That will happen. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now it's coming together. All right. So you're yes. Like adding rotation and position as separate animations to create the same thing in the end. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
And for some reason this was necessary.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I cannot explain anymore why, but yeah.
Fair enough. Like I understand the hours of time trying to figuring it out already. I've played that game before.
Yeah, it's already been almost 1.5 hours now, I think.
Yeah. All right.
The time's going quick.
So these 2 rotations do not need to be here. So we want to copy them, I believe, and then we put them in the rotation.
Yes.
Like so. Rotation 1 is the default. So go right mouse click, set as layer default. Are these any states as well?
No.
No. Okay. You're always trying to be cool. All right. Ooh, hang on. This animator doesn't have any. Ah, what did we do? Ah, standpoint was already done. Pivot's not been done.
Parameters.
Yeah, got it.
Ah,
So,
yes.
parameters.
Yes. Let's start with the pivot point, I guess. Oh, I had many parameters. Let me see. Yes. Okay. Yeah, you just want parameters separately for the rotation and location again. So I think I just gave them numbers like R1 and L1.
Okay. Are they floats,
That
ints,
will do.
booleans, triggers?
I think they're also triggers, yeah.
0, 1, E0. Oops. E1. Go.
Yes. And actually for the rotation, it's I think now we can do it with the duration of what is it? The transition within animator. Because we set it like as a single frame animation.
Right.
So it's like either 90 or 0.
Mm-hmm.
I actually animated it like a smooth curve, but I think for this how do you say it? For this tutorial that's maybe not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is also interesting to show off this part of the animator actually.
I use this all the time, like my doors, my elevators, pretty much everything actually. Like even my dance floor in the Imadegen space was, I think, like I looped the color a bit, but the change of color was transition, so it's like super powerful. So yeah, super useful.
Yeah, it's really yeah.
So exit time
and
is
then,
off.
Well, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the duration can be more like what is it? A second. Something.
Yeah. All right. So it has exit time is off because we can transition, like we can start it whenever we want. The transition is longer, so it will blend between these 2 points over 1 second. And I'm assuming rotation 1 will happen when we trigger R1 and back when we trigger R0. Yeah. There we go. Cool. Location, what are we doing with that one? Same?
Basically the same. Yeah.
Okay.
I think in this case I did use the any state again.
Let's try it without.
The reason for this was that if you follow the map and you reach the spawn point again, there's also a reactor that tells basically does the same thing with this.
Yeah.
So it sets the R1 or R0 to wherever you happen to follow.
That's a really good point. The other one you could approach, and that was the same thing with I was speaking about before with invert. So if you, and this only works with Boolean. So if you had pivot 1 and pivot 0, say, it would invert, like true would go to false, and false would go to true. Regardless of when you get on it, it would just switch between those two states every time you enter it. So I've used that, and that's been quite useful as well. So once again, many different ways to do it. It's just whichever one works best for you. Okay, so both rotation and location are any states?
Rotation wasn't, but I think you can make it
same.
like
Might as well.
Yeah, the rotation part became kind of a spider web in my case, because you have like branches. So you have the first rotation and then you go back and then you go to the next one. So it's not one linear path. But yeah, for this purpose, I think it's
Cool.
I think it's fine.
P1. That one is P0. Okay, we'll give that a shot. There's always showing people how to debug Reactor when it doesn't work, so it's fine. This is on purpose.
Yeah.
Alright. Cool. So the animators for pivot are done. Counter, not done. What does counter need to do?
Yeah, counter does actually the same as like the location of the pivot.
Okay. And
but
rotation
just one
or
single
just
layer.
Position?
Sorry?
Just position. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just position. Yeah.
So let's go trigger, counter 0, trigger, counter 1, any state. Has exit time. Is this immediate or is this over time?
Also immediate, yeah.
Immediate, right. So that has to be
so
0.
Location is immediate, rotation is not immediate. Yeah.
Oh, okay, hang on.
Also in case of the pivot, actually. I don't know if...
hang on, I'm going to have to figure that out in a second. Okay, so revise that. Counter, is that immediate or timed?
Immediate, yeah.
Immediate, okay. Pivot, is that...
Pivot.
Position is immediate?
Oh, this is immediate?
Okay, yeah. Transition duration.
Sorry.
No worries. But rotation is timed. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so I think... Yeah, we got most of it set. We didn't do the second one, but I think it's fine
reasons,
for now.
One is fine. Like, do that again, but invert. Problem solved. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we have pivot done, counter done, and standpoint done. All right?
Yes.
All right. Now what?
I think now we can start with maybe placing the colliders in this case. Let's do that first. Yeah, and then the colliders will have the reactors inside of them.
Give me a sec. I'm just gonna answer Fractilians, who was asking for the space. So give me a second.
Oh, I didn't even check the...
Yeah. It's hard to keep track of many screens. So give me a sec. Modeverse.com. I'll do a new space because then people can play it. That as well. In the description, I'll put it in the chat. Let me see if I can actually do that. Done. All right. Sorry about the delay on that, Fractilians. Hopefully that's sorted now. Cool. Moving on.
Okay. Where were we?
Reactor? Maybe?
Yeah, we can start adding the collider objects, which then contain, how do we say it?
Reactor?
The reactor, yeah.
Okay.
So I just added cubes which have a collider, and then
now these
in this case I often put a transparent...
These could be anywhere, right? So reactor, trigger, so you add the...
Some of them could be added. Sorry?
You add the collider first? All right, we'll do it your way.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
All right. So I usually add reactor first. Doesn't really matter. I usually put these two together, but let's do that. So I assume the collider is on the step.
Yes, one of them is on the step. And the collider that is on the step is in a standpoint object. So
Okay. So the
Yeah,
reactor
yeah,
should be on this as well. There, probably.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yep.
And then what I did in my case to make the standpoint platform a pair is that around this entire area where these two red things are, basically, you create another collider so that when you walk into that, uh, the platform appears in front of you, basically.
Okay. So I need a second collider.
Yeah.
Okay. Standpoint. I'll do that one. Add reactor, and then I'll put a box collider on that as well. Okay. So that one.
Yeah, and this one is
really big, right?
Yeah, and that one is inside of the room, for example. So it moves with the with the room. Yeah.
One. Thank you, Unity, for keeping it there. All right, how's that?
And I would make it a little bit bigger so that before you approach it, you can already see this small platform growing. So that you see it's
So
something
this
that you
one
can stand
triggers
on.
the thing to come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. In that case, yeah. So let's make it a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Probably quite a bit bigger, really. As accurate as you need to.
Most of these mechanics make sense when you add multiple rotation points. So now we just have one, so it seems a bit like, okay, we're doing a lot of effort to make one thing rotate, but that's
pays off in the end.
That's how it is.
Right.
Okay. Great.
So let's start with trigger, I think.
Yeah.
No, let's do it in order. It's like I walk towards it, the thing comes up. Yeah, let's do this one first.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Order just makes sense. Like, not even logistically, it just makes sense to do things in order, I find anyway. All right. So on enter trigger, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
We want this to show stand thing. Set. Which one was this? Standpoint. This was on standpoint, if I recall.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think so.
So once again, this has to have an animator on it. So to double check, I'm going to go standpoint. There's the animator. So that's good. The parameter was... I'm going to check. Enabled and disabled. Okay. So we want enabled. Enabled. And it is case sensitive, so make sure that your capitals are correct.
I think you misspelled it.
I did. Well done. There we go.
The resolution is high enough so that I can see that.
Thank you, Discord Nitro. Actually, no, this is just YouTube in general. Thank you, YouTube. Now, as a trigger, you don't have to put a value because there isn't one. That said, nope. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, important note is that almost all of the reactors I put to local because when you're in a space with multiple people and one person approaches one of these platforms or stands on them, and your space also starts rotating, when you're not on one of those platforms, then you basically fall off, and it becomes one big mess. So for each person individually, this happens. Okay. So the downside is that when you're with multiple people, you maybe don't have the same experience together.
Yeah,
it's more like a single player thing.
Yeah,
but it's the only way to make it work.
Yeah, that's the thing with games like puzzles and with the Fallout guys one is like, okay, how do you make this work with multiple players when there's different things going on? Or do I force this to be a one-player environment through either using it as local or just never give the Hangout link out? And then it's always a single-player experience. So there's a couple of ways you could go about it to choose the experience that you want depending on the space that you're creating. So That's cool.
So maybe as a simple example, if it's, let's say you want to turn a white cube red when you walk near it, if you're with multiple people and local is not checked, then you both see it turn red. And if local is checked, then only the person that approaches the cube sees the white cube turn red. Yeah, that's basically that's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's next?
Okay. Next, yeah. What this also does is it realigns the space, so it makes the pivot point go to, in this case, the first pivot point, but because this is the first zone.
Mm-hmm.
So we can add another, yes.
All right.
And this one, how do we call it? I call it pivot change. Yeah, you said the.
And this is on the same
trigger
big,
again.
the big collider.
Yeah. And yeah, here you change the pivot.
So set which object do we? The pivot. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, the pivot. Yeah.
And what was the?
This case, I think it's P1.
P0, P1. Okay.
Yeah.
That. Pivot. P1. Trigger. Local. Got it.
And yeah, the same for this. What was it? Counter thing. So
counter.
we had another one.
Okay.
Counter.
Right. Counter. I do recommend, it is annoying, but always double check your parameters. Because it's very easy to get this wrong, and like it's the most common thing to get wrong.
Counter one.
There you go. Prime example. So make sure, double check all of your parameters as you're putting them in, just to make sure you've got the spelling correct and not. It is the most common mistake when setting up reactors, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, for this one, I think that's it. In other cases, when you have multiple of these zones, because for each of these rotation points you have another zone, then you'll probably name it so it has the same number, but in this case we only have one of them, so we can leave it. The next one, let me check.
The standpoint trigger.
Yeah, basically I added one with, you can call it pivot rotate, I guess. So this one is going to be the one that when you actually stand on the platform,
One.
Yeah, that is going to rotate.
Local. All right.
I'm thinking maybe we can add a little bit of a delay. What was it? The start time.
Okay.
I think it's actually maybe beneficial, so that, or maybe it's not necessary.
And that's on the animation.
I think no, just in the animator of the pivot.
Get that pivot.
Yes. And then the rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe add like a to the arrow. Yeah, one of the any states. Yeah. Maybe it does have an exit time of, I don't know, 0.2, 3, 5. I don't know.
Both of them?
So if a little bit of a pause before it starts moving.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, and then I think that was it. Yeah. Okay. I also had some audio samples playing, so that one, but we don't need to add that one.
Yeah. All right. So in theory, this should work.
In theory,
All right.
I've never tried to make this like all in one go, so
Yeah.
it's
Give it a shot.
normally the process is a bit more trial and error in between. I think
No worries.
instead of
All right, I'm gonna delete that because I think I did that by mistake a second ago. So let's do that again. Fantastic lighting.
I also have this often with the light that the first build
It's a bit weird.
it's not there.
I'm not sure why it's happens actually. So let's adjust the lighting a bit before, because otherwise it's just going to be a bit tricky. Yeah, I'm not too sure why that happens actually. It's a bit of a strange one. We have to update the template to fix that, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that and turn off shadows. And that'll be a quick fix. 0.5 and 0.5. Yeah, that should work. A little bit. Oh, no, that's because the light is going that way, so that's fine. Okay, cool. Why is it flashing? Those are looped. Those should not be looped, I'm assuming.
Yes. It happened to me.
Yep. The
100
debugging
times,
begins. Okay, so to change that, it's quite easy. All you have to do is select all of the animations that you do not want looped and just turn it off there. So counter init.
Yep.
Basically, I think all of these would be not looped, right?
Yep, true. Yeah.
So easy to fix.
I think every single time I added one of these, I forgot this step. So, yeah. I don't think I will ever stop doing that.
I think there are just things as a game dev where you just understand that you will always make that mistake. Alrighty. So walking across.
Super laggy for me, but let's see.
Something happened. Nope. Okay. So that's not triggering for some reason.
You look underneath if it's actually there.
Oh, that should come up. It should be visible, right? So what's happening is go through my usual approach just to show that. So that is the standpoint, right? Yes. And that is based on the standpoint animator, which is there. That should be there, which is the animator, which isn't there. Hang on. There we go. So disabled. I'm going to reduce the icons. Let's turn them off. Yeah, leave it on. Disabled. So that should go to enabled, which goes up. So that should turn up. Okay. And that's based on enabled and disabled, right? And those are based on not the pivot. It's in the room, right? That one. So when I walk into the standpoint, enabled is triggered. Okay. Too sure. So let's try some debugging tools. It's going to add a cube, put it there, turn off the box collider so I can walk into it, and make a new material. That is transparent. Just so we can see what's going on that, like so. All right. Yeah, all right, we'll give that a shot. Have you found any other useful tools for debugging?
Tools. No, this is also kind of my approach. Just add transparent stuff, or just yeah.
Okay, it did
Let me
something.
see.
I'm going to refresh that. When I walk in, I sort of jump a second. That.
Yeah, that's probably the small inaccuracy thing.
Think so?
Oh, I know what's happening. Yeah, I know what's happening. Okay, let's go back. The platform, the what is it? Standpoint is outside of the space, which is good.
Yeah.
However, when we update this pivot point, it's still in the same place, which is not the right place.
Right.
So what I needed to do every time was rotate the scene, move the scene to the right location. In this case, you can just take the pivot and move it to the white cube.
On the animation?
No, not on the just here for now.
Just in general. Okay.
Yeah.
So where are we doing it?
And then yeah, here.
Okay. So
Good.
where does it need to be? Up there.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Like so?
Yeah. And then you move the standpoint object as a whole.
Standpoint object.
Forgot this step.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that needs to go also, yeah, actually also there. So yeah.
Okay.
But you maybe need to update that animation because the position is not right.
Right.
They both animated.
Yeah, these are not animation. These are just the base. So when they animate, they're gonna reset back to that. So we might have to do everything kind of again, right? So, which ones do we have to edit? The pivot and the standpoint, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Wait, I don't know what you just moved.
I moved both the standpoint.
Is it like it was before?
No, it's very different. So I moved both of things up to the white cube.
Okay.
Is that what I was meant to do?
Yeah, that's fine, but then only for the standpoint we need to use that new location in the animation for the.
Okay, so pivot needs to move just as a default. We don't have to animate it.
No, yeah, correct. Okay.
Yeah. But standpoint, we have to
just for it needs to go back to 0, again, but just to know where to place where to replace the standpoint.
So, from the start, what do I have to do? This
Okay,
is where it
okay,
was.
okay.
This is the problem. So, what do I need to do?
Okay, so you take the pivot point and stand point
Yep.
together.
Yep.
That was good. And then move it like you did.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the pivot you can just move back to where it was. I think 0, 0.
Oh, so that needs to go back.
Yeah, it was just to help with the alignment because yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And now the end point. Yes. This one we did we animate this or it was just in? Yeah, we animated.
You have to animate it. Okay.
Oh, now it moved back.
Because it's animated. So we have to. Okay. So we have to get the standpoint up to where it was in the animation. Is that what we have to do?
No, just move it to where it was just now in the air. Yeah, there. There it needs to be from the start.
As an
Actually,
animation, though, because the animation will override it every time.
that's also fine. Yeah.
Right. So if we press play, it will go back to the animation sets. So if we don't edit the animation, it's in the wrong place from what I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So we have to animate it to there on initialize, where that is.
Yeah, on both. Yeah. Or initialized, maybe you can move it all the way like down like you did before, but then further down. And then when you actually want to see it, then it needs to be in that location. Yeah.
That location. Okay. Right. So, okay, let me grab that information with copy component, and then we're going to animate it. So disabled at the start. So that needs to, well, let's start with, yeah, disabled is where it starts.
Yeah, that's actually fine in this case
So that one's
because
fine.
it will probably
Okay.
be underneath the space anyway.
Right. And enabled is the one we have to tweak.
Yeah. And then the standpoint position, not the cube position.
Standpoint position. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the one you copied.
Standpoint, copy that, copy component. Yep.
Position.
Oh, yeah, let's just do position. Copy position. All right. And then go to enabled. And then that has to be there.
Yes.
And then we can go, let's turn that on just in case. And then go paste position like so.
Yeah.
And when that goes up, that'll be
Maybe
correct,
that's actually
because the standpoint position is keyframed there, not there. So that's perfect, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason it needs to be up there is because once we walk into the transparent red zone, the space will align to the new pivot point, and so
Right.
then they will match up.
Okay. So that is one. Yeah, that is probably, this is outside my programming skills to figure out the navigation. So I have no idea how you came up with half of this stuff, man. This is
Yeah,
insane.
every time you just start small with one
Yeah.
step and then try to build it up. But yeah.
Nope.
Can you
We'll
see
make
what
sure it
is?
updates though. I'll get rid of that one and try again. I think it is the same problem though, whatever it is. So, boom. Yeah.
Can you see where it is in the space? Can you go zoom out or?
It is up there, a little bit outside.
Hmm.
Hang on, I'll redo it again and see if it starts where we think it should. Also a good debugging tool. Okay. So it starts. Where does it start? Up there. It's invisible, like it's small. Right. So that's that. And then when we go like there, it does scale up, but it scales there. Else? We could just move it in. That would be my next approach for like testing. If I was trying to figure this stuff out,
Yeah.
my approach would literally be just move it in and see how that goes. And depending on the complexity of the animator, I do find that sometimes there will be a case of I will just try things until it works. That's the standpoint. We need to go to enabled again. And move that. And it could be... Oh,
It almost seems like it should have actually been just where it was, but
I think it's the right height, but it's just too far in. And I have a feeling it's there. Give that a shot. But being able to track, and you start getting used to it. Once you start making reactors, you start tracking what the problem, like common problems are. So that's an animation problem, or that's an animator problem, or that's a reactor problem. It comes up quite a lot, actually. So let's see how we go here.
it's a bit hard
I'm
to
going to
see.
change the light because that's not working.
Should you reload the lighting or something?
I just need
I
to
don't know.
change the angle. So at the moment it's that
Oh
way.
yeah, okay, yeah.
So I just need to go ta-da. That's a problem solved there. Again?
There it is.
So not there anymore. This is probably a rotation issue on the fact that I don't know what your positioning is doing. So just moving it across might actually be the wrong direction for that sort of thing. So there's many levels going on there. All right.
Mhm.
So next thing, go to that, F that. On enabled, there. That one?
Yeah, it should be somewhere. And the tricky thing is that when I made this, like the process was really different than how we made it now. So I didn't make this mistake because it just happened to be in the right location when I built it or something.
Does it go at all now?
Where is it?
There it is.
Yeah, that's so
Okay.
weird.
So I have to move it down.
Or maybe it should move the other way instead of.
Actually, I don't think we needed to move it up. I think we need to be in the same spot.
I'm starting to think that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's not where you put it now, so it's.
I think it's down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, actually, might even be
why
further.
wasn't it visible?
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So, once again, let's grab that. Go to animation. Go to enabled. So, bets on where this needs to go. So that's there.
Maybe it should just actually be opposite to the, let's place it here for now. And maybe it should actually go to the bottom left instead of top right.
Oh, this way you reckon? Ah,
You
yeah,
know,
I see
yeah.
what you mean. Okay, so you'd have to do sort of the opposite of that direction.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Let's.
My God, how did I ever do this?
Yeah, it's like. Okay,
and then 6 of these in a row, so you have like rotation. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Nuts. That's got some serious troubleshooting skills there. I'll say that much. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, common animator.
It was worth it in the end.
Reactor tools, especially with complicated ones. And that's the thing. And I think you were mentioning this before. If you're doing reactor, always start small and test every single small step, because if you do a really complicated system and the first or any one of those things don't work, it'll be
Okay, yeah, so we are getting close.
Yeah, there we go. That's cool.
Yeah.
Worth it. Okay. Deep dive on debugging. Okay. I didn't pay attention to where that was. Did you? Okay. So I think it was like 2, 3.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
All right, that'll do. Save.
Knowing this now, probably it would have been better to just make one pivot point and just put it in the right location from the start.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Every curve is a learning curve. Right, so, boom. Oh, so close. There though. There we go. Okay. So we basically got the small elements of sort of tweaking. So that was a little bit on. So I'll keep moving that across. And yeah, if you have a good approach to what you're doing, you won't have to go through this much troubleshooting. So the fact that we're actually doing like what would you call it? Backseat driving, complicated reactors. I'm pretty happy we've got as far as we did, actually. Okay, maybe a full one across, if I recall. Right. Maybe down one? Give it a shot. Okay. Close enough. And then when I get on that,
for now.
Go. Ta-da!
Yeah, now you can go back, I think, because it's inside of the blur, but that should also work, I guess.
I don't think that's a positioning issue, so you can't see the white box anymore.
Yeah.
So that's fine. But yeah, so that's a lot more complicated than I expected it to be honest. But
yeah,
we covered a lot of really useful elements there. Like, say, for example, the layers, super useful. I'm already starting to process some cool things with layers. And if things get really complicated, I could break things up into layers if I wanted to sort of make it a bit easier. So that's really cool. But yeah. All right. Well, that's like 2.5 hours to get there.
Yeah.
But
Bit
it's
longer
there.
than
And once again, like
yeah.
it was a whole process to get there, and once again, it's a complicated structure, and that's fair enough. But once it happens, once it works, it's great. Like the feeling when everything fits together is like, that's the coolest thing ever, and then move on with the next point. And the fact that you got all of this working multiple times, yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I know how to do it now, and I still don't know how you've done it. Like that's really impressive. So I think you've definitely earned that first place with the Interact challenge, because even having done it, I can't imagine how you did it 3 or 4 times with assets that you're pushing in each layer to get. It's like yeah, well done. I'll give you that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, now I'm looking at this, and if you need to explain it to someone, it's really complicated.
Oh, for sure. Everything is 3 times more complicated when you're explaining it to anybody. Like everything is more complicated when you have to explain it to somebody else, because you never have to process the thinking to anybody else. Like if you say it makes sense, you're good. But as soon as you have to process it to somebody else, it's like that's a different ball game. So you've done well, I think, figuring getting it to me, because as I said, some of the things I didn't even think of for a complicated structure like that. So that's actually really, really cool. So yeah, impressive stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if someone else tried this. There would be a much easier way, even.
My original approach would have been the same as you, with the multiple, like a pivot in, like a space of a pivot, and a space inside that as a pivot, and then a space inside that as a pivot. And once you're 6 deep, that starts going to get like, like you got a bit messy, and it stopped working correctly because you got too many things going. So the fact that
that approach was really easy to understand, actually. And that doesn't take nearly as long as this, I think. But yeah, I was so far into the process of already modeling everything, the puzzles, that I had to come up with a monster like this in order to make it work.
Yeah, for sure. But it works great. And as you said, like the space is amazing, and it's kind of like, it's one of those things where if you spend the time on it, and it's going to be hard, the payoff is well worth it. Like that puzzle space is, and a lot of people won't appreciate how much work goes into it on the grounds that, like, I move the thing and it rotates and then like does all that sort of stuff. But there's definitely a lot of steps that sort of create that. And I think it's definitely paid off in the end, because the space is great. And I've learned a few things today, so that's excellent. So super happy with that. But is there anything? We'll wrap it up there. Is there anything else you would like to add before wrapping up?
Well, I hope that people can follow this and can actually learn something from it, because I imagine if you drop into somewhere half midstream, it will be probably really difficult to follow what we're doing. But just watch it from the start to the end, maybe. to follow it.
What's your social media? Like, get your word out. What's where you at?
On Twitter, I'm just at Scuube, SCUUBE. Instagram, it's scuube.lab, Scuube Lab. And that's it, basically.
Cool. And of course, if you're new to Mona, we have the Mona Discord. Feel free to join that. We have the monaverse.com, MONAVERSE, for checking out all the spaces. If you want to find the one we've looked at today, I've put it in the description, so check that out. And go check out the space and figure out that last section. I'm interested. Now that I got like a little bit further, I can sort of see what I can do with that now too. So that'll be good. But excellent. All right, let's call it there. Thanks again for the collaboration. It was really good to do. I'm happy I've got some new tools that I can play with Reactor, and Animation and Animator. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in the stream with your next project.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was
No
a
worries.
fun experience.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right, have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.